Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind The Country Chic Cottage. Today we're going to do some engraving on both aluminum and acrylic, and we're going to add some color to it. I'm actually going to use 3 different methods to add the color. I'm going to use a Sharpie, a stamp enamel marker from Impress Art, as well as rub and buff. We're going to use all 3 methods on both aluminum and acrylic so you can see the results and decide what will work best for your project. Like, I totally love the blanks from Impress Art, so I had to do a project at the end. So I'm gonna make a bookmark with engraving and my Cricut Maker machine. Now remember, the Cricut Maker and Maker 3, you can use the engraving tip to do engraving on metal and acrylic. If you have an Explorer Air 2 or an Explorer 3, there are off-brand engraving tools that you can find on Amazon. I do have videos on those, but be warned that those may void your warranty if you use them. So now let's take a look at the methods we're going to use to add color to engraving with our Cricut machine. I'm going to engrave on both aluminum as well as acrylic. Now this is a clear acrylic, it has like a protective coating on it. And then I'm going to use a variety of methods to color the engraving so you can see the differences and pick which one you like. I'm going to use stamp enamel from Impress Art. You can get this a couple different ways. You can get it in marker form, or in an enamel set that has just little pouches in it for kind of one-time use. It does come in a variety of colors. I am just going to use, I think I'm going to use the gold because I have antique gold in the rub and buff. That's our next option. And then I do want to use a Sharpie, and I have a bronze metallic Sharpie. So that might compare a little bit apples to apples as far as what color we get. So we'll use the gold stamp enamel marker, rub and buff and antique gold, and a bronze Sharpie, permanent Sharpie. And I'm going to use it on aluminum as well as acrylic so we can compare how they do. And then if everything goes okay at the end, we will also make a project using the method that I personally like best, but of course you can pick the method you like best to make your own projects. So let's take a look at what I engraved. So I used my Cricut Maker and my engraving tip, and I did a sheet of aluminum. So if you can tell, I put several A's on this. And I did use one of the fonts that I used in the engraving fonts video, and I will link to that video below. So I did the A in the same font 6 different times. And then I used that same A in that same font to do some acrylic. And for these, I also did the same font in the same letter so we could compare apples to apples, basically. And I did the same design on 4 different acrylic discs so we can test and have one that doesn't have any color to see what the differences are. So now let's apply the color to this aluminum. The same procedure for applying the color applies to both the aluminum as well as the acrylic. These are the 3 things we're going to be using on the engraving, and I did want to show you them on a white piece of paper because the colors are slightly different. So this is the bronze Sharpie up top, and I've just drawn a line on the paper. This is the stamp enamel marker in gold, and you can see it's kind of a gold metallic. And this is the rub and buff in antique gold. For the Sharpie and the rub and buff, I'm gonna just almost wipe them off immediately, so you would want to do those in small areas on your engraving. For the stamp enamel marker, it dries in 1 to 3 minutes, so you have a little more working time. So I could put it over the entire engraving, allow it to dry that 1 to 3 minutes, and then wipe away the excess. So let's take a look at using each of these on the engraving on the aluminum. Let's start with the Sharpie, and I'm just going to literally draw over the engraving, and I'm trying to work it down into all of those lines as I draw. So I'm kind of going across the engraving if I can, and then I'm going to just basically immediately wipe it away. And you can use a lint-free cloth for this. You can use a paper towel, which is what I'm using. However you would like to do it, you can just run it across. Now, I can repeat this method. So let's say, like, this isn't very dark. I don't know if you can see it on camera. So I'm gonna run it across another time. So any of these you could repeat a few different times. So if you have Sharpies on hand, this might be a good place to start and see if this works for your engraving. Black Sharpie is fairly common and can definitely be used. And this time I'm gonna let it dry just about 10 seconds. So it's been about 15 seconds, and I'm just gonna wipe that back off. And it is a little darker, And I think I'm gonna stop there with 2. And you can get it a little bit wet. So I'm gonna use just a wet cloth here on these little pieces that dried too much. And now I have just the Sharpie that's down inside of this engraving. On the right, we have the one that we used the Sharpie on. On the left is just the plain engraving without anything. So I think you can see it does darken it up. So let's try our next method. Next we have this stamp enamel marker in gold, and I'm gonna press it down like you would a paint pen to get it flowing, and then I can just rub it across just the same as I did that Sharpie. Again, this one has a longer dry time, so you could definitely work it over an entire engraving easily and then wipe it off. I have rubbed a marker like this over a very large surface area without issue, and then just went back after I was done and started wiping it away. Again, you want to rub it across, try to work it down into the engraving, and you might plunge down every once in a while to get the marker flowing. And now I am going to let this dry for about 1 minute, and then we'll wipe it away. So now it's been about 1 minute, and I can just wipe away the excess. Again, on this one, I can apply it a second time. I'm gonna go ahead and apply it a second time. Again, wait a minute and rub it away, just so we're comparing the two equally. So I'm gonna apply it a second time in the same manner, working it into the engraving. And then I'm gonna wait a full other minute, wipe it away, and then we'll take a look and compare the two. I can definitely tell that the color of this marker is lighter, of course, but it is getting down into that engraving well. So I'm gonna let this dry for about a minute. Again, the second coat has dried about a minute, and I'm just going to wipe away any excess. Again, paper towel or a damp cloth. The one on the right is with the Sharpie. The one in the middle is the stamp enamel marker, and the one on the left has not had anything applied. So I think you can definitely tell that the Sharpie marker or the stamp enamel make it darker than if it was just in the aluminum without anything applied. So now let's try rub and buff. For the rub and buff, I just wore a glove, rubbed it over really quickly. I wore a glove because it does say like clean with mineral spirits, and I do not want to do that. And then I'm just going to rub it immediately off. Again, if there's any areas that won't come off, you can use something damp, and that will help. And then we can apply a second coat if needed. And this one is actually the darkest of the three without a second coat. So I think I'll show this to you without the second coat, because I do think this one is definitely the best of the three. No further coats required. So here is my panel. This one's Sharpie, middle stamp enamel marker, third rub and buff, and the top row doesn't have anything in the engraving. So I think you can see that the rub and buff definitely makes everything stand out, and that was just one coat. So I am a fan of the rub and buff on the aluminum. I'm going to use all three methods on the acrylic, and let's compare and see how they look. Here are your results side by side. So this is the acrylic without anything for reference, and you probably can't hardly see the engraving. This is with the Sharpie, aluminum and acrylic. This is with the stamp enamel marker, aluminum, acrylic. This is with rub and buff, aluminum, acrylic. And with the acrylic, this is engraving side up, but I did want to flip these over for you because you could mirror your engraving, and I intentionally did something that was kind of symmetrical so you could see this. You could mirror your engraving, engrave on the back, add whatever color you want to add, and it would show through to the front. So you would have a smooth surface on the front. Again, the rub and buff really wins here. So this is just one coat of the rub and buff, 2 coats of the other 2 methods. The rub and buff is definitely darker, and it's very easy as long as you have a small engraving. For larger engraving areas, like I said, it's going to dry really quickly, so you're going to want to do the coloring in small steps. So I would do, in this case with the aluminum, if this whole thing was the engraving, I would divide it into sections when I was adding rub and buff. If you did not want to do that, choose one of the other methods because they definitely do not dry as quick. Here's the rub and buff method up close for your reference. This is rub and buff as compared to the stamp enamel marker, so you can see the difference between those. And then here's all 3 methods, rub and buff, stamp enamel, and Sharpie. And here's all 3 of those in the same order compared to just regular engraving without anything. Since my favorite method is the rub and buff, I thought we would do a project. So this is a bookmark blank from Impress Art. So it already has some engraving on it, but we're gonna add words across it, and you could personalize this however you wanted to. So what I do is locate it onto my mat using these grid lines. And I've done engraving before, and I will link to a few videos below on that. But I did want to illustrate how I do it here. So I've centered this up. So between these engravings, about in the center of that is this 5 mark, and I've centered it on the 1 line approximately on my mat. And then I'm going to use a brayer and really bray that down. Now with small blanks like this, you can use transfer tape on the mat itself to hold this down, but I do have some room on the edges here to add some painter's tape, so I'm just going to use painter's tape for this one. You do want a little extra assurance on the blank itself. Now in Design Space, after I click Make It, I'll locate the design on the 1 and the 5 so that it's located correctly when I engrave on my machine. You do want to be sure to change any lines to engraving and Cricut Design Space, then click Make It. And then you'll locate that design in the same location as you just located it on your mat. So in this case, it's the 1 and 5 mark that I need to center my engraving on. And you can zoom in on the mat on the screen to get that a little bit more accurate. And then once I'm ready, I'll go ahead and click Continue and pick my material. Now when you're doing engraving, you can pick from a variety of material types. I'm gonna pick stainless steel, and I'm gonna add more pressure on this screen, and then I'm gonna head to my Cricut and engrave this bookmark. So now I have my engraving tip in the Maker, and I have my star wheels moved all the way over so that they're not gonna go over my blank here. And you do wanna make sure your blank is not too thick, that it will fit under this roller, and you might wanna do that before you start, because I have had some blanks that won't go under. So now we'll just click Load, and then we'll click the Go button to engrave. Then once that's done, we'll just remove the mat. And then let's take a look at finishing this bookmark. So now you can see the gorgeous engraving on this one. So let's take this off the mat. So first of all, you might feel something rough on your engraving or little pieces of metal. And what I like to do is just use the tape to pick those up. So I'm going to use both pieces of tape and just run it across here and pick anything up that might be on the piece itself. And then we can just peel this up from the mat. And now we can add rub and buff just like we did before. So I'm gonna open the rub and buff. And again, I wanna do this quickly or in sections. So let's do this half. Well, let's do it a third and a third. So I'm just gonna do this bottom third here. I'm gonna rub the rub and buff on, and I'm going to remove it quickly with my paper towel. And then I'm just going to continue, and I probably have enough on my glove here, but I'll just add a little bit more, and I'll just continue for like the next third or so. And rub it on, rub it right back off. And then we'll just do that final third, and we'll just clean up any other little areas at the end here. So I'm just going to do this final end, rub it into all the engraving, and rub it back off. Then I'm just going to use like a damp cloth just to go over it. There's just some areas that don't come off, and yes, I did it that quickly, but still you have some areas that just don't want to come off. And I'm going to get me another paper towel and just sort of clean up the excess rub and buff. So all I want to do is get the excess off, not what's down in my engraving. So just any excess that I see on the surface. So I'll just keep working for that. And here's that engraving with the rub and buff applied, and I went ahead and put a tassel on the bookmark. It did take me several seconds to clean that up. I would recommend using some kind of cloth. The engraving can be rough and the cloth can leave little fibers all over the engraving. So it did take me several minutes to get all that cleaned up because I did use a cloth that left some fibers. Just a note there, you might want to use a cloth that won't leave as many fibers and catch on your engraving. So now we have a cute project as well as the knowledge we need to add color to engraving. Now my favorite method tended to be the rub and buff. And rub and buff comes in a wide variety of colors. I used the antique gold in this video, but there are a wide variety of colors on the market. However, they are all metallic colors generally. If you want a wider range of colors, one of the other methods would work great. So Sharpies, of course, come in a wide range of colors, and this is just a regular permanent Sharpie. And then the stamp enamel marker, or they make the small stamp enamel packets, both sold by Impress Art. They're both the same material, just two different formats, and they also come in a wide variety of colors. So it just depends on what color you want to add to your engraving, what method might be the best for you, because like I said, you might not find that color in rub and buff, or you might have liked the look of one of the others better in this video. That's okay too, that's what this video is for. You decide which method works for you. All three of those work really well. Now once the color is down in the engraving and it has dried, so I would probably allow it to dry for 24 hours just to be on the safe side before you were to give it to someone. But once it's dried, it's not going anywhere. So these methods should be fairly permanent. And as you saw on like the rub and buff, I used a damp cloth within a minute after applying it to rub away excess. So what was down in the engraving wasn't going anywhere. Like I guess I could maybe have gotten it out right away, but probably not. The rub and buff especially is probably there as soon as you apply it. And maybe if you scrubbed really hard, you might get some of the other ones off. But now that it's down in there, it is dried, it is permanent. Now the water-based versions, so the stamp enamel marker from Impress Art is water-based. If I was to take my project and I was to soak it in water, it would probably come off. So while they are permanent and you can use them for permanent applications, when you're dealing with something water-based, of course, water would reactivate it. Now, the rub and buff is not water-based. Like I said, it says clean up with mineral spirits, so it would probably be the most long-lasting of the three methods. And of course, you've probably used a permanent Sharpie before on tons of things and know that it's pretty impossible to get off. Would be the same in this case as well. So hopefully that helps you pick a method for adding color to engraving, whether you're engraving aluminum, steel, acrylic, whatever you're engraving on your Cricut machine. Hopefully this helps you. Now I am going to do a future video on adding color to etching of glass. So I'm going to do a video where I etch some glass, use some of the methods shown here and maybe some other methods, and see which methods are best when you etch glass, because I don't think they would be the same as these. I may be wrong, but I thought I would do another video on that. So hopefully this helps you with adding color to engraving. If it does, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about anything we've covered, drop it down in the comment section, ask away. And if you like this video, be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube because we have videos just like this every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.